Junior Motorsports is discussing the possibility of jumping up to the Cup Series in 2022. There has been some drama going on between Marcus Lemonis and Sheldon Creed on Twitter, and Greg Biffle is still interested in running some Truck Series races here in the foreseeable future. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. We have quite a few NASCAR stories to discuss here today on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. Let's start off with some of the paint scheme news and sponsor news. First thing we're going to take a look at is Chris Rice's 2021 Tex Boot the Band scheme that we are going to see at Circuit of the Americas. I think this paint scheme looks really, really awesome. They're also teaming up with the Still Spirit on this car as well. They did a very solid job on this paint scheme overall. I'm definitely looking forward to see this paint scheme out on the racetrack at Circuit of the Americas. The next story we're going to talk about is A-Game, as they're going to be sponsoring Ryan Sieg for 2 races here in 2021, starting at Dover this weekend, and then they will sponsor him at Circuit of Americas in a couple of weeks. A-Game has already sponsored, I believe, Ryan Sieg's organization, which they were sponsored with the 23 team earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken, with Jason White. And they're going to be once again sponsoring this team here at Stover and Circuit of Americas. Awesome to see that A-Game is continuing to sponsor, and great to see that Ryan Sieg continues to pick up sponsors. Ryan Sieg's had quite a few sponsors so far this year in 2021, and it's great to see that A-Game is going to be sponsoring Ryan Sieg here very, very soon. And now we're going to jump onto the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Noah Gragson, as Noah Gragson, at the end of the Xfinity Series race, after the Xfinity Series race was concluded, he had failed inspection for suspension mounts, which means he was DNQ'd, which meant that Noah Gragson would not be able to get the $100,000, would not win Dasher Cash. That meant that AJ Allmendinger was going to be awarded the $100,000 bonus and would win the Dasher Cash, and he's not eligible for the Dasher Cash as well. Right now going on, they are currently discussing the possibility. As a matter of fact, they're actually right now going to appeal this penalty as well for the suspension mount issues. I find it really interesting that they're going to be appealing the suspension mount issues and appealing their DNQ, because remember, they basically were disqualified from the race overall and would not get that $100,000. I think it's really interesting because we haven't seen many of those this year so far. I think Noah Gragson is the first or second driver this year so far. I think the last time this happened this year was with Michael Annett last year at Junior Motorsports, where he basically was DNQ'd from the race, which it's crazy to think that Noah Gragson would not get it. It's the luck that Noah Gragson has had so far this year. Look back earlier this year at Homestead, where he basically had the car to beat and wasn't able to win. Some of the wrecks he's been involved, some of the bad luck he's had so far this year, some of the engine issues he's had this year. Just the bad luck that Noah Gragson has had so far this year. And he looked really, really strong, but with the issues of suspension mounts throughout the race, really, really hurt him overall. So that's the news on Noah Gragson, and hopefully, I would like to see him get it revoked, but to be honest with you, it's probably not going to get revoked, and they're going to lose their $2,500 that they originally had at the beginning. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Darlington, Daytona, as Kansas, as those racetracks are going to officially have full capacity for their upcoming races. The Daytona Fall Race is going to have theirs for the cutoff race. Will have full capacity for their events. The Southern 500 is going to have full capacity, and Kansas in the fall is going to have full capacity. This is really, really awesome news for sure. We already have Pocono and Atlanta confirmed that they will have full capacity. In my honest opinion, at this point, I think it's time to open everything up. I think we need to, for sure, 100% open everything up, get every single one of these tracks 100% capacity. Maybe infield access, take a little more time for that to come in. They've been trying to work on that. They won't have infield access for Dover because, again, they're not at Dover is in Delaware, and they've been a little more strict when it comes to their COVID protocols. But I think at this point, it is 100% okay to get everything fully open and fully accessed. I think every single track here very, very soon, they need to go back to 100% capacity. There's no exceptions, in my opinion. The fact that a few tracks starting to do it is really, really good. And I do think very likely Phoenix is going to have 100% capacity. I would not be shocked if every track, as a matter of fact, in the playoffs ends up getting 100% capacity. But at this point, I think that starting at Pocono, we need to start opening everything up to 100% capacity and get everybody back to the racetrack as quickly as possible. NASCAR has been pretty bullish on that, getting everybody back as soon as possible. And I think it will be time very, very soon to get everybody back to the racetrack here coming forward soon. And now we're going to jump onto the next story of today's episode, as we're going to be talking about Nice Motorsports. As it was mentioned on the broadcast by Vince Walsh, that Nice Motorsports is planning on going to go down from 4 full-time cars to 3 full-time Truck Series cars, which means the 45 truck is no longer going to be a full-time truck. I think they did also mention that they could run the 4th truck in select races later this year. I think this makes a lot of sense logically because Brett Moffitt is no longer going to be running full-time with the organization, as Brett Moffitt is going to be focusing on the Xfinity Series. I think it absolutely makes a lot of sense to downsize the 3 trucks. Plus, I think Nice Motorsports overall, they're going to be more of a competitive organization running 3 full-time trucks than running 4 full-time trucks. I think when Nice Motorsports expanded to 4 trucks, I think that hurt their organization overall. I think the fact that they expanded so quickly hurt them because remember 2018, yes, of course, they had GMS back in 2018 and 2019, but when they expanded to a couple more cars and more organizations, I think it hurt them overall. I think that they're going to be a much better organization and they're going to be overall more competitive organization going forward. And I think that they will succeed a lot more with 3 full-time cars, especially with Carson Osborne, had a very strong run at Darlington and a couple other cars. I mean, we've seen them be competitive with only 3 cars. Ross Chastain proved that at Kansas he was really, really competitive. I think it makes a lot more sense for them to downsize to 3 trucks than go to 4 trucks. But that is just my honest opinion of that. And I think that Nice Motorsports is making a very good decision overall to only focus on 3 trucks. I think they're going to be more competitive than going to run 4 full-time trucks. I think that they overall are going to be more successful as a 3-car organization full-time than 4 full-time organizations. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to be talking about Dale Earnhardt Jr. As Dale Earnhardt Jr. said because remember, this past weekend, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was in the National Fairgrounds, basically promoting the possibility of NASCAR returning, because there's been talks going on right now that National Fairgrounds could be returning in the foreseeable future. He says that he will race in the National Fairgrounds every year if NASCAR come back. Here is a quote he said during the press conference when he was at the National Fairgrounds this past week. If they run Xfinity Series races here, I'll be here. I'll run once a year. I'll probably do that as long as I can, and there should be a few more years of that. Hopefully we can get that Xfinity Series here soon, the next couple of years, because I love to come out here and compete. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has been really, really bullish about wanting to bring this track back. And the fact now that Dale Earnhardt Jr. wants to race here, and this would be his designated track to come race with Junior Motorsports, would be really, really awesome. And I think that Dale Earnhardt Jr., honestly, if he is to compete, if National Fairgrounds is come back here sooner or later, which I think it's going to be a few years before National Fairgrounds is come back. But if Dale Earnhardt Jr. has a shot at competing, I think he honestly has a very good shot of winning the races, especially since Xfinity Series right now is not competitive as it used to be when you have guys like Chase Briscoe in the Cup Series, not Noah Gragson, Cole Custer, Christopher Bell, and Tyler Reddick in the Cup Series right now. You have a lot of competitive guys in the Cup Series, and I think right now there's going to be more of those competitive guys going up to the Cup Series soon. Guys like Noah Gragson, Austin, and there's going to be a lot of younger drivers. Of course, you have guys like Ty Gibbs racing Xfinity Series right now. But I think Dale Earnhardt Jr. has been very, very bullish about getting National Fairgrounds back. And in fact, now that he wants to race in this event would be super, super awesome. I know that he really wants to bring it back. He's been very, very pushing for it. I hope it happens soon for Dale Jr. because I think that I would also like seeing National Fairgrounds race because the last time they raced in National Fairgrounds was in 2000. And like I mentioned just a minute ago, they're basically trying to push for National Fairgrounds to come back. And I think that they should bring it back. I think it'd be great for the fans. A lot of those old school fans to be able to come back. Of course, you have to watch for the Karens, of course. But Dale Earnhardt Jr. doesn't care about the Karens, really. And I think that we honestly should bring National Fairgrounds back soon. Please bring it back here sooner or later. I would like to see renovations on the track because there's a lot of renovations that need to be done. And hopefully we can bring National Fairgrounds back here sooner or later to NASCAR. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Greg Biffle, as he did an interview recently, I think, with NASCAR.com, and he says that he is not ruling out returning to race in a truck series again this season in 2021. Here's what he said about that. He says, I want to run more races for Kyle. It's certainly not out of the question. We've had more casual conversations, nothing serious. Kyle's bugged me about running full-time, but not necessarily this year. To be honest with you, I love it. It's what I grew up doing, and I love doing it so much. But at the same time, I just don't think I want to run full-time again. I think it makes a lot of sense for Greg Biffle that he doesn't want to run full-time again, to be perfectly honest. I think Greg Biffle basically likes to run part-time and stats. I mean, there's been talks going on right now that he's looking at running SRX probably full-time. But, of course, it's only 6 races compared to, like, NASCAR where the seasons are extremely long. I think Greg Biffle, absolutely, if he comes back again, he's actually come back a couple times in the last couple years. In 2019, he ran in the truck series for Kyle Motorsports, and guess what he ended up doing? Winning the race in that 51 car. In 2020, he came back to the truck series and drove for GMS in the number 24 car, and he had decent success overall in the 24 car. I think he ended up finishing 17th in that race at Darlington. I think pit strategy kind of hurt him overall. He wasn't running great, to be perfectly honest with you, but he ended up having a really fantastic finish overall. That being said, I think if you put Greg Biffle in a competitive truck like the 51 truck that we've seen drivers like Corey Heim have pretty good success at, where even though Corey Heim didn't finish great at the Darlington, he ran pretty successful. We've seen that 51 truck win quite a few races here. 3 times with Mark Truex Jr. once, and Kyle Busch twice so far this year. And Cowboys Motorsports definitely back up top. Were coming into this race, Darlington looking for a 6-straight victory, and it looked like they were going to do that with either Corey Heim or John Hernimich or even Chandler Smith, but they weren't able to do that. But I think that with how good Cowboys Motorsports is, if Greg Biffle has come back this year and run with the 51 team, I think he has a very good shot and a very solid shot of being super, super competitive because he's been really, really good. He's shown what he can do in the Truck Series, even being in his 50s, of course. I think that he would be super, super competitive overall. And I honestly think that Greg Biffle should absolutely 100% come back. I think that he will be very, very successful. And I think that Greg Biffle has a very good shot of being successful going forward. Now we're going to jump on to the next major story of today's episode, as we are talking about the Marcus Lemonis and Sheldon Creed situation to happen on Twitter. If you were following on Twitter this week and you saw that there was some drama going on between a bunch of reporters and Marcus Lemonis, people including Jeff Gluck, Cassie Fambreo, Jenna Fryer, and among others that were getting involved in the conversation in regards to the sponsorship situation. So let's take a little bit of backstory in regards to the situation. So Sheldon Creed, of course, won this past weekend in Darlington, and once again, he really wasn't sponsored this week, and he had that really awesome Jason Leffler tribute scheme that he ran this weekend, which he ended up winning, which was really, really awesome to see. But right after the race concluded, basically, someone said that someone needs to sponsor Sheldon Creed. I think it was a fan, if I'm not mistaken. Marcus Lemonis says that, of course, the fan said sponsor. Marcus says he offered to help out Sheldon Creed. And this is where the stuff begins to take place. Sheldon Creed replies that he is worth more than $15,000. Then Davey Siegel the next day tweets out talking about the exchange that took place and saying that he knew his worth. Then Marcus says and calls him unprofessional, Sheldon Creed unprofessional, and wonders why he's unsponsored. Then Jeff Gluck comes out in response, says that what Marcus said was wrong, and he said what he said was absolutely unprofessional. And then Marcus responds saying, you know what he said, Jeff? He said, I have no problem with guys going unsponsored, but he says, have some class when you end up doing it and stuff, and basically not just be classes and unprofessional in a sense. That's just the absolute drama. Then all this some more stuff happens, and Jennifer I respond. So let's get into the whole situation. So if Sheldon Creed had Camping World on his car, he would have had $100,000. Now, if you want to hear my opinion, I think both Marcus Lemonis and Sheldon Creed are in the right in this situation. I really don't think anybody 100% is in the wrong. Do I believe that Sheldon Creed is worth more than $15,000? Yes, absolutely. The guy won the championship last year, and the fact that he is not sponsored right now and really has only had help at times from Camping World is honestly absolutely ridiculous. Yes, he does have family money from his grandfather, but absolutely he should have more sponsorship than just Camping World helping him out. And the fact that a champion has had trouble with sponsorship, along with GMS, including Zane Smith, and even Rafa Sard, who lost his ride this past week, the fact that they've had issues with sponsorship is a really, really big problem overall. That being said, Marcus also, quote tweet, said $100,000. If he won the race, he would have gotten $100,000. I think the bigger issue is that, yes, it does degrade a little bit of the sponsorship problems where it drops down. But that being said, if I was offered $15,000, I would take that because $15,000 is better than nothing. Yes, other sponsors might not, in my honest opinion, might not want to sponsor as much anymore, but the fact that their sponsors every single race are paying $100,000 is absolutely ridiculous. When these Truck Series teams, again, $15,000 is better than nothing. And I think teams should accept that. I think that, especially with the pandemic going on, take all the help you can get. I don't care how much it is. I would take $15,000 overall more than, of $150,000. $15,000 is going to help sponsorship overall. Again, I'm not 100% a big fan of Marcus Lemonis basically putting out in public how much he's basically offering these drivers, but I would take $15,000 over nothing, and it can help teams overall. Tommy Joe Martin's even said that. If you get $15,000, despite if you win or not, you're still basically making $330,000 at the end of the year. You're making a lot of money, and that can save your team a ton of money on tires and stuff, which tires cost a lot of money, by the way. Yes, we don't have practice qualifying, so you're saving tires from the practice sessions, of course. But I think, in my honest opinion, I think that both Marcus and Sheldon have good points in this situation, and I can't really pick one side or the other, but I think that Marcus Lemonis has a very good and fair points, and I think that a lot of people need to take a look, because I think that Marcus Lemonis just trying to save the series. And if it wasn't for Marcus Lemonis, we wouldn't have the Truck Series probably. And remember, 12 trucks are sponsored not that long ago, and you were praising him. So I think that, in my opinion, Marcus is more on the right, but I think both have very good and honest and very fair points in this situation. That is my honest opinion on the situation. And now we're going to jump on to the final story of today's episode, as we're talking about Junior Motorsports' continuation of possibility of jumping up the Cup. We've talked about on the channel a couple weeks ago that Junior Motorsports was potentially looking to jump up the Cup Series after Josh Berry won in Martinsville a couple weeks ago. There was that conversation happening. And now we have more talks going on behind the scenes in regards to Junior Motorsports potentially moving up the Cup next year in 2022. According to Adam Stern, Junior Motorsports is still having internal talks about the possibility of starting a Cup Series program. We're motivated to learn whether this is time to do it or not. I think it's probably now or never, Jail Jr. said to Sports Business Journal. There was also a continuation on it saying, we're having a lot of great conversations with people in the industry about whether this would work for us. We've got a lot of confidence in our ability to run a race team. The hurdle is whether you can make the financial numbers work and acquire a charter. It's no secret that the next-gen car is attracting teams and attracting even Xfinity Series teams and outsider teams to come in. Look at 2311 Racing and Trackhouse Racing and Live Fast Motorsports. Yes, of course, they had to buy and acquire the positions of the other charter teams that basically got shut down this year. Teams like Germain Racing, Levine Family Racing, among others, and Go Fast Racing that basically had to shut down at the end of the year that took the organizations. But they came in, of course, because they saw the next-gen car's abilities and its cost saving as well. And College Racing, of course, that's jumping up next year to the Cup Series full-time in 2022. And now you have the talks of Junior Motorsports jumping up the Cup. I think that this is what's going to happen for them to acquire a charter, because I think the big question they mentioned is the charter situation is, are they going to be able to acquire a charter? And I think that there is a very good possibility, if they are to jump up the Cup next year, that they are going to be able to acquire a charter. Of course, right now, there really are no charters available, but I think that this is what's going to happen. I think Rick Rowe Racing is going to lose one or even two of their charters, even maybe two or three of their charters. So I think they're holding on to these charters right now. And I think that there's a very good possibility that Rick Rowe Racing is going to drop two or even three of their charters next year. And I don't think they're going to downsize next year. I still think they're going to be trying to compete with 4 cars. But I think that they will lose their charters and basically try to work on 1 or 2 of their cars, which would make a lot of sense. I know Rick Rowe Racing wants to be competitive, but I don't trust that. But I think that they overall want to be competitive overall. I don't think the financial things are going to be a problem because Junior, of course, can attract sponsors. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is a guy that has attract sponsors like Walmart and Unilever and other companies like Hellman's who would work with him. So I definitely think Junior would not have an issue attracting sponsorship. The big question is who are the people that could end up driving for Junior Motorsports? There are 3 names that obviously come to mind. The first one is going to be Noah Gragson. Noah Gragson has been driving for Junior Motorsports since 2019, and he's had pretty decent success overall. He has 2 career Cups, 2 career Xfinity Series victories coming at Bristol last year and coming at, I believe it was, I can't remember the other track that he won at last year, but he won twice last year in the NASCAR Xfinity Series and has had decent success, but has only scored 2 victories, but he's been very, very solid in that number 9 car with Junior Motorsports. That being said, other drivers that have driven for Junior Motorsports, guys like William Byron and Tyler Reddick and Chase Elliott have won championships in that 9 car. So I wouldn't say Noah Gragson 100% would be the first choice to go to that ride. The second driver is Josh Berry. Now, Josh Berry has only driven few starts for Junior Motorsports, but he's been pretty solid so far in the NASCAR Xfinity Series this year. Josh Berry, of course, won at Martinsville earlier this year, and it looked like he was on the verge of getting his second career Xfinity Series win at Darlington, but he got passed by Justin Allgaier. Speaking of which, the third driver is, of course, Justin Allgaier, who's been driving for Junior Motorsports since 2016 when he dropped from A. Scott Motorsports in 2015 to go down to Junior Motorsports, and he's been very, very successful at that organization. I think that he could be definitely a good choice for sure. He's a guy that's been with that team for a very long time, and he also has Brant on the car, which is another key thing, is that Brant is also worked with Kelly Earnhardt, who's on the board of ambassadors, board of directors for Brant. That would definitely be a really good choice going forward if they were to choose that. So, overall, who are the drivers? Who do I think is going to overall be the driver that is going to take that? I think you have a really hard choice to make there because you have 3 solid drivers in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I think most likely, though, Josh Berry's probably the least likely to go to Cup. I think he's going to take over one of the 2 rides that are going to open up in the Xfinity Series because Sam Mayer is going to probably end up going full-time with Junior Motorsports as well. Sam Mayer's not going to be ready for Cup. Let's be honest with ourselves. Sam Mayer's making his Xfinity Series debut later this year. I believe that Pocono in a couple of months here, if I'm not mistaken, so he'll be taking over here in that ride really soon. But I think that Josh Berry will most likely go full-time, just assessing he's had so far this year and the opportunities he's had. And I think that if sponsorship is coming for Josh Berry, because that's a key thing too, Josh Berry's a guy that does not 100% attract sponsors because he's had trouble and struggles with sponsorship. I think that definitely he'll be able to get help with Junior Motorsports, helping him with that sponsorship front. The two drivers most likely are Justin Allgaier and Noah Gragson. I would like to say that it could end up being Justin Allgaier because Justin Allgaier has been with Junior Motorsports. But I think that if Kurt Busch comes back to the Cup Series next year, which I don't think it's going to happen, I think that Noah Gragson does not go over to the one car next year. If Junior Motorsports is jump up the Cup and Kurt Busch returns, I think that they are going to choose Noah Gragson. Noah Gragson, like I mentioned, has been with them for a few years. I know that Noah Gragson's probably not ready for Cup, but let's be for real. They are going to be a startup team. They want to be a competitive team, and I think Noah Gragson could help them overall with that going forward. So I think it's going to be between Justin Allgaier and Noah Gragson. I'm still leaning more towards Noah Gragson if he is to get that ride, if they are to jump up the Cup next year. But if not, if they don't jump up the Cup next year, I think that Noah Gragson will go over and take over for Kurt Busch at Chip Ganassi Racing. That being said, I know the Junior Motorsports wants to be competitive. I think that their goal overall is to be a super, super fast and a super, super competitive team. I think the goal for them, if they are to jump up full-time to Cup next year, is to try to finish in the top 25 standings. But don't say you're going to win multiple races a year, and just show that you have the ability to be competitive. Because I think that if you show that you can have competitive nature in your first year and do what 23XI and Trackhouse have done at points this year, I think that you have a very good shot of having a solid career. So, anyway, that is going to be for today's NASCAR news video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, notifications, be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support my page as well. Links description below for that, and comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts on potential Junior Motorsports jumping up to the Cup Series in 2022? Do you think he's going to happen next year or not? Let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts about Greg Biffle potentially making his NASCAR Truck Series return here later this year? And if he does, how successful do you think he will be? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great and awesome NASCAR content. Take care, everybody.